Welcome to Handcrafted by G.R. Broussard. I'm Greg Broussard, and today we're going to build a jig to hold the chain so we can sharpen it with the Granberg electric chainsaw sharpener. Why would you want to use a vise to hold the bar to sharpen it? Then you can't make a cool jig. This sharpener is used on the chainsaw on the bar, and you just attach it to it. I just thought it would be a good idea to have a little jig for it, and it's supposed to be a really good unit from what I've seen. So this is the deal here, and little bitty grinding stones. So this is going to be cool. Again, the background noise is the fans running because of course it's 500 degrees in here. So the idea is to use the old bar, chainsaw bar, and I can mount my sharpener to it, and I'll make some kind of holder jig, and I can freehand turn this chain and still use the sharpener and have a lighter, easier kind of method of sharpening if I don't have the chainsaw. The chainsaw might be on site and the jig might be at the shop or whatever the case may be. So I thought I'd make one of these, and we'll have some kind of deal over here where the chain will roll around it. Seems pretty simple, and I think I'm going to have some kind of spring on here so I can give a little tension and the chain will stay on the bar. I can flip it down and sharpen, turn my thing around, my sharpener around, flip it around, do the other side, take it off, and then I'll have a sharpened chain. So that is the idea. So I'm going to make a holder for this and a little rolling thing back here with a little spring loaded deal. I need a large piece of wood so I can bolt this to it. I don't have a big enough piece, so I'm going to use this, and I'll square the two sides of this up so I can screw it from the bottom, and I can screw this piece to it. That'll be the support to hold the chainsaw up. This is a piece that my brother and I are going to use for some parts for a table, but I think I can use just a little bit of this for the guide, or for the support. So I'm going to cut this up. This is the flattest part right here, so I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out so I can have a 90 right in this corner, and I think that's probably all I'm going to need. So I'm going to remove some of this bark and plane this down with electric planer. Okay, this will mount here on this 2x6, and then I can bolt this up high like that. That should support the weight. I probably will put a clampy deal down here to support the end a little bit, and my tensioner will go here with some kind of spring tensioning device that I can flip out, take the chain off, switch chains, flip it back, and provide just a little bit of tension so the chain will stay on the bar. So that is how I've got it so far. I think what I'm going to do now is make a wheel to go here. It really doesn't even need to be round, but I think I'm going to turn a wheel, not obviously this big, and this will be my tensioner wheel that the spring will go on to somehow or another to give tension to my chain. So I'm going to turn a wheel. Here we go. that will be our size of our tensioner. We'll cut it a little bit smaller on the lathe. Now I have my tensioner cut. I'll have to put an axle in it. We'll have to make a mounting system somehow for it. And we'll have to put a spring on there so it can be a tensioner. And this is going to work great. And yes, I'm making this up as I go, but it's going to work. So this is what I've come up with so far. And I was going to have the spring come off this side and come down here. But this thing turns sideways. I mean, I know that this is just a very small dowel. I was going to use a 1/2 inch dowel. So if in order to work this block has got to be much bigger and much more robust. So, but this is just I built a proof of concept before I built the actual one. So I believe I just need to beef it up, and then we can have something with a spring to tighten the chain. Tie number 415, we've got it done. We've got a spring-loaded system on here, and I can change chains. I can take this one off, put the dull one on here, and I can mount my sharpener. So let me show you how I'm going to change the chain. Now this is just a prototype right here. I'm going to make it sturdier and stronger and more robust, and I'll pretty it up a little bit. So say there's another chain that this one's sharp, and I want to take this one off. So I'll have to pull this pin, and I can remove the chain. I have to take the spring off. I can remove the chain, put a new chain on, and then when a new chain comes on, I will put my wheel back on. And this is just a temporary one. I've got one that's a little better than this one, but this is just my practice one. And then I will put my pin back through, my dowel back through, and I will put my spring back on, and then I'm back to sharpening. So we're going to duplicate this part here in my hand, and we're going to make it a little bit more robust. So that's the measurements for that, and then we're going to make the supports out of some old oak stock that I've got. Starting to get there. Let's drill some holes. I need to mark these in the orientation that they came off the drill press. So we'll just make this one the right. Let's see, we'll just go right, and that'll go toward the blade. That would be forward, and this one will be the left side, and that'll be forward. So they'll mount like that. Next thing I need to do is cut this board to length and clean it up a little bit, and clean up my work area because this is getting crazy in here. This board is really messed up. It's cupped. It's got this lip on it. I don't know what that's about. So I'm just going to run it through the electric planer so I can get it done rather than do it by hand. We're going to use the machine for this one. Now I need to make this part right here. So let's figure out how to make a good one of these. I forgot what hole I'm supposed to use, so we'll need this hole, and that hole. And I can cut it that short. Now we've got the supports made, I've got to go ahead and drill a hole into my official pulley. And I got to come in from one side and go on the other side because these two aren't square. That's why this one didn't turn out right, because I didn't square it up before I did it. So let's drill this hole. My phone overheated, the camera on my phone, and I had to put it in the freezer. While it was in the freezer cooling down, I cut the dowels to length, and I'm going to assemble and make sure everything is marked and in the right order. And hopefully this thing will go together just fine. We will see. Let's see, then this part, that's the front. And that part, is that right? That is right. Okay, this is the new pulley, and this dowel I should be able to take this dowel out nice and easy. If not, I'm gonna have to do something about it. There we go. Okay, just like the prototype, it's a little tight. There we go. I think that's going to work. I have to make sure that this pulley is aligned with the chainsaw, and I think what I'm going to do is mount this block down first, and after I mount this block down, I'm going to align the pulley accordingly. So now I can just pick a spot and say I can drill here and here for my screws. With the brad point bit I drilled the hole with, my holes, I'm just going to mark it where it goes. I don't want to move it, I don't want to flip it upside down. I just want to mark it where it's set, so I'm going underneath. I'm afraid I'm going to screw something up if I move it. Okay, perfect. We got it. I have my depth set. Let's drill our pilot holes. I got to run the screw down to tap the threads because they're really super hard to do for the first time. Hope I didn't strip that. Okay, let's assemble. I don't know how this is possible, but I stripped those screws. I'm gonna have to repair it. How is that even a thing? Ah! I fixed the holes. Now I have to wait for about 30 minutes because if I drill now, it won't work. So I'm on standby for about 30 minutes or so until that at least dries a little bit. I recovered from stripping the threads. I just mounted it like I did last time. And now I've got to get this chain riding straight on the pulley. I've got to get this thing riding straight. Not only have to get it riding straight, but I have to cut a little groove where the spring goes down here so it doesn't slide around. So I'm going to do both of those at the same time. I need to get my distance for where this will set, and then enough where I can pull this forward and make sure I can take this chain off. And it needs to be in the right spot for that, and it can't be one of, you know, sideways or one of those deals. So I'm going to spend a minute trying to figure out exactly where I can put this. Okay, now can I take the chain off? If I flip this forward, can I take this off? Yep, okay, so I'm gonna mount it right here. What I've done is run my screws up through the bottom where I drilled down, and I'm going to line my parts up, and I'm just going to make an indentation on my part. Did I just get it the first time? That's not even a thing. I did. Okay. So I'm just going to make an indentation. And all 4 indentions are there. That's where I drill. This drill doesn't have a depth stop on it, so I have to mark how deep to go on my piece. And I just put these little pieces of tape of where to stop. That's my depth stop. I didn't know a depth stop was a thing when I bought this drill press, you know, 6 years ago or something. But it seems, the system seems to work fine. It's not exactly perfect, but it works well enough for me. But anyway, that's how I do my depth stop, because I don't have an actual physical bar that'll stop the bit from going down any farther. But it seems to work like that. That's my calibrated depth stop system. I came and widened these holes a little bit, so when I put my bit, when I start screwing it down, it doesn't catch threads on the piece, so it'll actually clamp this to it. So the threads are stripped on the side like I want it, but it'll just back them out. And that'll give us clamping power to hold this down rather than the threads get caught up on this and there's a space between my part. If I can find my holes. There we go. I'll clamp it down and we'll screw them in. Okay. Oh, nice. I think we did it. Got my chain and put the chain around the pulley. Put my pin in, my dowel, whatever you want to call it. Spring tension will be on here. And what do you know? It tracks. It looks like it's off, but I think the groove in the pulley is large enough to keep it on there. Now we have to adjust and put where the spring goes on here. And how much tension do we put on the spring? I think I'm going to have to cut a groove in here. Definitely going to have to cut a groove in that. Okay, so my spring is on. How much force do I want on my chain? And I like it right there, so I'm going to make a mark right here where to put my dowel. Right there. I'm going to file a groove into this part here. Just a little groove where that spring can lie in there. And I'll just go all the way around. Oh. This is when you break something, right? Cut me a little block that fits in there. Let's see if that'll work. There we go. Now this pin is cut short on purpose so it doesn't stick out the ends. So when this rotates, it doesn't hit this part. It's a little smaller diameter of a dowel I'm putting in here just to get the depth of it. And then I can now mark the dowel that comes out of the hole where I want to put that groove, which is about there. Now this is awesome. This works great. Now I've got to learn how to use the sharpener for this chain, and that's the next step. But this one is great. Now I can rotate my chains on and off of this. I don't have to be waiting to use the chainsaw. Someone can be using the chainsaw. Someone can be sharpening and rotating and flopping the chains. I'll walk you around this just in case I missed anything. I had to put spacers in here, and there's 4 washers down there. I used 3, but 3 weren't enough. The chain just seemed too close to this bracket to me, so I put another washer in. There's 2 washers holding this in. I don't know what size anything is. I didn't measure anything. I went off the top of my head. I do have some AutoCAD 2.0 drawings right here that kind of gave me a concept, and then when I built my prototype, that's when I came up with this idea. So I just kind of did it as I went. And it seems everything worked fine. This is just scrap wood that I had. And this spring comes off a dishwasher front where the door opens and closes. I take apart dishwashers and dryers and take the parts off of them because you never know when you're going to need a part. And that's one of the parts that I needed. So I countersunk the bolts underneath and the screws underneath so this thing will sit flat. And I just chamfered the edges just because I think it looks cooler that way. And that's really about it. I think all I need is just mount my sharpener here. And this is basically the surface that I need to use right here. It doesn't matter if this is all slag and you know, hanging down. It doesn't matter. Just as long as I can rotate this thing and get to both sides of the bar, I think I'm fine. So now, next step is I'm just going to spray this with some kind of shellac or polyurethane or whatever I have to kind of keep it clean because this thing's going to get super dirty. And then I'm going to learn how to use a sharpener. I'm running the system off a 12-volt battery that came from a solar system that I used to use for a sprinkler to keep a patio cool, and that's recharged with a regular battery charger. I'm going to replace this whole thing with a power inverter that puts out 12 volts to run the Granberg electric chainsaw sharpener. I'm Greg Broussard, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to be talking about right now. Greg Broussard, and today we're going to listen to this train as it goes into the background. I'm not going to do jack diddly squat. This is the jig that has the jig. This is the jig. This jig has a little spring on it to keep the chain. This jig has a spring on it to keep the chain. This jig has a spring on it that keeps the chain taut. This, I can't do it. Oh,